ARC B580, RX 7800 XT, or RTX 4070? We tested all three at 1440p across 12 games. One GPU delivers 142 frames per second in Warzone, another hits 89 frames per second in Cyberpunk with RT. Here's the winner. We're declaring three winners because pretending one GPU rules every scenario is dishonest. Competitive gamers need raw frame rates in esports titles. The AAA players want headroom in demanding single-player games. Ray tracing enthusiasts prioritize RT performance and upscaling tech. Here's the breakdown. In Warzone, Apex Legends, and CS2, the RX 7800 XT delivers the highest 1% lows and average frame rates. Warzone ran at 142 frames per second average with optimized settings, 38% faster than the ARC B580's 103 frames per second, and 12% ahead of the RTX 4070's 127 frames per second. The extra VRAM bandwidth, 624GB S versus the 4070's 504GB S, matters in fast-paced multiplayer where texture streaming can cause stutters. Apex hit 189 frames per second. Each GPU ran on an identical test bench, Ryzen 7 7800X3D, 32GB DDR5 6000 CL30, 1TB NVMe Gen 4, 850 watts, 80 plus gold PSU. We use the latest drivers as of January 2026, NVIDIA 570.12, AMD Adrenalin 25.1.1, Intel Arc 6224. All tests ran at 1440p native or with the stated upscaling mode. Frame times captured with present MON averaged across 3 5-minute runs per game. Settings were optimized for each GPU, not maxed out, not console equivalent. We used our automated playbook generator to find the best frames per second to visual quality ratio for each card. That means ultra textures, but medium shadows on the B580, high RT reflections on the 4070, and tweaked LOD distances on the 7800 XT. Here's the raw data. Frame rates are averages with 1% lows in parentheses. RT means ray tracing enabled. Upscaling noted where used. Warzone, high competitive. RX 7800 XT, 142 frames per second, 118. RTX 4070, 127 frames per second, 109. ARC B580, 103 frames per second, 89. Apex Legends, high. RX 7800 XT, 189 frames per second, 150s. RTX 4070, 178 frames per second, 151. ARC B580, 154 frames per second, 132. CS2, high. RX 7800 XT, 312 frames per second, 271. RTX 4070, 298 frames per second, 259. ARC B580, 267 frames per second, 231. Cyberpunk 2077 RT Ultra DLSSFS or XS quality. RTX 4070, 89 frames per second, 73. RX 7800 XT, 62 frames per second, 1. ARC B580s, 51 frames per second, 42. Alan Wake 2, RT Medium, DLSSFS R quality. RTX 4070 frames per second. All three GPUs ship with 12 gigabytes VRAM, but bandwidth differs. The RX 7800 XT's 624 gigabytes crushes the RTX 4070's 504 gigabytes and the ARC B580's 456 gigabytes S. In texture-heavy games like The Last of Us Part 1 and Resident Evil 4 Remake, we saw the 7800 XT maintain higher 1% lows because it could stream high-res textures faster. The RTX 4070's lower bandwidth shows up as occasional stutter when rapid camera pans trigger texture loads. It's rare, maybe 2 to 3 frames per hour in our testing, but noticeable if you're sensitive to frame time spikes. AMD's Infinity Cache partially offsets the 4070's bandwidth advantage in some scenarios, but the 7800 XT's raw numbers. The RX 7800 XT pulls 260 watts under full gaming load. The RTX 4070 sips 200 watts. The ARC B580 lands at 190 watts. If you're running a 650 watts PSU, all three work fine. If you're building in a small form factor case, the 4070's lower heat output gives you more thermal headroom. We tested with a Corsair 4000D airflow case and 3 intake fans. GPU temps stabilized at 71 degrees Celsius for the 7800 XT, 65 degrees Celsius for the 4070, and 68 degrees Celsius for the B580 after 30 minutes of Cyberpunk. Fan noise was comparable, around 38 dBA at 2 feet for all 3 cards. Modern GPUs are quiet unless you buy a budget bin model with a Buy the RX 7800 XT at $479 if you play competitive shooters or esports titles 60% of the time. The raw raster performance and bandwidth advantage deliver the highest average frame rates and smoothest 1% lows in fast-paced multiplayer. You'll hit 140-plus frames per second in Warzone, Apex, and Fortnite without compromise. Buy the RTX 4070 at $499 if ray tracing and single-player C games dominate your library. DLSS 3.5 and superior RT cores mean you'll experience Cyberpunk, Alan Wake 2, and future path-traced games at 60-plus frames per second with maxed visual settings. The $20 premium over the 7800 XT buys meaningful RT performance. Buy the ARC B580 at $399 if budget matters. Build your free playbook for any GPU at BetterFPS.com/optimize.